In 1996, Tanya Kach, an 8th grader, vanished after skipping school, setting off a decade-long mystery. The story unfolded on February 10, 1996, when the 14-year-old left her family's home and never returned. Shockingly, she wasn't simply missing. She had fallen into the clutches of a 37-year-old school security guard. Tanya lived a hidden life for 10 years, entangled with the person who should have ensured her safety. This is a haunting tale of a teenager lost to the world, her family unaware of her fate for an agonizing decade. What events preceded Tanya's disappearance, and what kept her concealed for an entire decade? Let's find out. McKeesport, Pennsylvania, was a quiet town where everyone knew each other's names. It was the kind of place where kids played in the streets and neighbors chatted over picket fences, but beneath the surface, darkness lurked. In such a community, no one knew the horrors unfolding behind closed doors, where a young girl's disappearance would remain a mystery for years to come. Tanya Nicole Kach, born October 14, 1981, lived with her dad and stepmom in McKeesport, Pennsylvania. Troubled by her parents' divorce, the 14-year-old felt unwanted and made some terrible decisions. She found solace in Thomas Hose, a 38-year-old security guard at Cornell Middle School, where she studied. Kind and attentive, Hose became her confidant, offering her comfort amid family turmoil. When Tanya first crossed paths with Thomas Hose, he displayed kindness, bringing laughter and treats like candy and cigarettes into her life. Their connection deepened as Hose, then 38, befriended her at Cornell. He regularly pulled her out of class, attempting to alleviate her struggles by listening to her woes and making her laugh. Tanya, who was struggling with family issues, found comfort in Hose's company. However, the narrative took a disturbing turn when Hose caught her skipping class one day. This marked the beginning of a troubling series of events that unfolded in the shadows of Cornell, shaping the unsettling course of Tanya's life. Their relationship took a disturbing turn when Hose kissed her during a chat, leading Tanya to believe she loved him. That day, when he kissed her, he convinced her to keep it a secret, assuring her that he wouldn't report her actions of missing classes. And from there, things went extremely wrong. On February 10, 1996, she packed up and moved out, joining Hose in his elderly parents' home in McKeesport, where he resided in an attic room. Initially, her parents didn't report her missing, assuming she had run away before. However, after a week passed without any sign of her, they contacted the authorities, setting off a search for their daughter. Realizing she was kidnapped, Tanya pleaded with Hose to let her go, expressing her longing for family. Instead, he relentlessly threatened and bullied her into compliance. For an agonizing decade, Hose confined her to an upstairs bedroom, isolated from his parents and son. He fed her his leftovers, provided a bucket for her bathroom needs, and even locked her in a closet during holidays. Despite living with Hose's family, they remained oblivious to her presence. Hose instructed her to memorize the floorboards to avoid detection. Locked in the attic, Tanya had to resort to using a bucket as a toilet. Showers were limited to once or twice a week, scheduled only when the rest of the household was asleep. Tanya Nicole Kach endured 4 years of isolation under the control of Thomas Hose, whom she considered her sole human contact during that time. Hose fed her peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, while she filled her days with reading magazines, listening to the radio, and watching television with headphones on. However, behind the facade of daily routine lay a sinister reality. Hose manipulated Tanya, claiming ownership over her and even taking her virginity. His constant threats of violence instilled fear in Tanya, leading her to believe he would end her life. Despite living just 2 miles away from her family's home, Tanya remained imprisoned, forbidden from stepping outside for the first 4 years. The proximity to her family made her longing for them even more painful, especially during holidays like Christmas, when she heard their joyous celebrations from her closet confinement. Despite her suffering, Tanya's terror of Hose's threats kept her from seeking help immediately. Her ordeal, hidden from the world, just a stone's throw away from her loved ones, is a chilling reminder of the unseen horrors that can unfold in seemingly ordinary neighborhoods. Upon turning 18, Tom permitted Tanya to leave his room, but remained hidden from his parents. Over the following 5 years, Tom fabricated a false identity for her, presenting her as Nikki Diane Allen, his supposed girlfriend, to his family. Tanya disclosed to the police that a local beautician, Judy Sokol, assisted her by altering her appearance to avoid recognition. Tanya engaged in a physical relationship with Tom after moving in with him, fearing his threats of violence if she attempted to leave his room on the second floor. It wasn't until the year 2000 that Hose allowed Tanya to venture outside alone, solely to shop for clothes. However, it took nearly 6 more years before she found the courage to speak out about her ordeal. Tanya finally sought help a decade after her abduction. Fearful and uncertain, she hesitated to share her story, worried that no one would believe her. Occasionally, Hose permitted her to leave the house for errands and even work part-time at a local convenience store, albeit under strict supervision. During the last 10 months of her captivity, Hose allowed Tanya to visit JJ's Deli Mart, where he developed a rapport with the owner, Joe Sparico. Despite these small freedoms, Tanya's years of suffering and silence were finally coming to an end as she mustered the strength to seek assistance and reclaim her freedom. Tanya Kach gradually built trust with the Sparico family, who owned a nearby Deli Mart, over the course of 8 months. Shaking with fear, she finally confided in Joe Sparico, the Deli Mart owner, in March 2006. Despite her apprehension, she revealed her harrowing ordeal, detailing the control and manipulation she endured at the hands of Tom. Joe, sensing something amiss due to the significant age gap between Tanya and Tom and his tight grip on her, listened with concern as Tanya poured out her story. On March 21, 2006, Tanya mustered the courage to disclose her circumstances and urged Joe to search for missing children online. Horrified by what he learned, Joe wasted no time contacting the authorities. The police swiftly arrived at Tom's residence, rescuing Tanya and apprehending her captor. They escorted her to the police station, where she was finally reunited with her family. Tanya's chilling warning to Joe Sparico, "If you go to a website for missing children, you will see a picture of me there," prompted him to contact the Center for Missing Children hotline. To his shock, he learned that Tanya had been missing for a staggering 10 years. This dramatic turn of events marked the beginning of Tanya's journey toward justice and recovery as she emerged from years of captivity to reclaim her freedom. When Tanya Kach finally disclosed her living nightmare to Joe Sparico, the Deli Mart owner, he wasted no time seeking help. He immediately contacted his son Sean, a retired police detective who had been involved in the Kach case years before. Sean recognized Tanya from her photo, which had hung in his office for years. Tanya's rescue was pivotal, marking the end of her 10-year ordeal. As she exited Thomas Hose's house and entered a waiting police car, she knew her suffering was finally over. At 24 years old, she was finally free. Reflecting on the ordeal, Joe Sparico expressed relief that Tanya had found solace in him. He was grateful to see her happy and safely reunited with her family. During Thomas Hose's trial, Tanya Nicole Kach bravely testified against him, recounting the years of manipulation and abuse she endured. Despite her courage, Hose interrupted her testimony, attempting to justify his actions by claiming he thought he was helping her. As Kach addressed Hose directly in court, she confronted him with the profound impact of his actions, expressing how he had stolen her innocence and control over her own life for a decade. Despite Hose's apology, Kach refused to accept it, refusing to allow him to absolve himself of his crimes. Despite Hose's attorney's claims that Kach was never held against her will, Kach's testimony painted a different picture. She revealed how Hose isolated her, convincing her that she had no other option but to remain with him. Throughout the trial, Kach's bravery and resilience shone through as she confronted her captor and sought justice for the years of suffering she endured. Tom faced multiple serious charges, including involuntary deviant intercourse, aggravated indecent assault, statutory sexual assault, and more. At the time, it was likely that, if found guilty, he could have spent over a century in prison. However, he admitted guilt in 2007 and received a sentence of 5 to 15 years, with a maximum release date of February 9, 2022, for one of the charges. Despite seeking parole multiple times, he served his entire sentence before being released in February 2022. Now 65, he is registered as a sex offender under Pennsylvania's Megan's Law. Being registered means that Tom's information, such as his name, address, and the nature of his offense, is entered into a public registry run by law enforcement. This registry aims to provide community members with information about individuals convicted of sex crimes living in their area. It helps people stay informed about potential risks and allows law enforcement to monitor these individuals more effectively. Additionally, Megan's Law imposes certain requirements on these offenders, such as regular check-ins with law enforcement and restrictions on where they can live or work to help ensure public safety. Following her ordeal, Tanya Nicole Kach shared her story through a book and a TV movie. However, her family's reaction wasn't as supportive as she had hoped. They sued her for defamation, claiming her memoir contained falsehoods. Despite reuniting with her parents, tensions arose when her father blamed her for the kidnapping. Reflecting on her journey, she emphasized her resilience. "I am not just the victim, I am a survivor." What are your thoughts on Tanya Nicole Kach's resilience after such a traumatic experience? How would you react if your family sued you after surviving a harrowing ordeal? Share your views in the comments below, and let's discuss strength and overcoming challenges.